Hello there everyone and welcome for the 9th and final time to 1.3 Monster Lair. We are in the enemy hideout stage, the final level of the game, and probably, well actually, usually you would sit here and say the trickiest one, but it really isn't. I would say that the desert level from earlier in the game is still a lot harder than this. This is certainly difficult. It's a big step up over everything we were facing before the desert, when this was a, frankly, pretty easy side-scroller. But it isn't too bad. Everything's kind of fair. It's a bit of a complicated strategy, but nothing too crazy. The main thing is that in comparison to every level before this, where the sub-weapons were a luxury, they become kind of mandatory here to avoid some of the enemy onslaughts. So that's the big change. That's the thing that makes it maybe a little bit more difficult than what we've been facing up until this point. But it isn't actually that bad. You are going to be burning a fair number of credits and lives, but it isn't too bad. And we're kind of coming towards the end of it. We should be soon enough heading into the final shoot 'em up section. But I would like it to be a bit faster because I don't want to lose another life from starving beforehand. We'll just have to grab that. We would have preferred to go and destroy it to get the extra health, but we'll just have to eat it. Anyway, UFO section here. Ironically, for being the final shoot 'em up section, I shouldn't have said anything. Ironically, for it being the final shoot 'em up section, it really isn't that bad. The main thing is that the UFOs fire off a single shot and then teleport to a slightly different location, but they always teleport to the same place, so it's not too bad to just stay out of the way of the single shot and then move to where they're going. What we really want, if we're really not lucky, we didn't get it. This is probably the worst weapon we could get. What we really wanted was the big fireball shooter thing to head off against the final boss of the game, who has several names, to be honest. He's referred to alternatively as Fire Dragon, as Big Dragon, and as something like High Baroom. So he's got plenty of names, but he is a tricky foe. The main problem is his fire breath, as you can see, is an instant kill. And while you can avoid it fairly often by going behind him, it's not perfect. Plus you take plenty of damage from the drill things bouncing around. But even once he is destroyed, that's not the boss over, because afterwards this strange fiery spirit comes out from the fake book. That's the warrior we've been chasing after for the start of this game. Comes out, he starts firing off electricity. But to be fair, he isn't that bad. He's, I would say, easier than the first phase. Especially if you stay near the bottom. The lightning doesn't actually go whole screen, so you can just stay at the bottom and avoid taking damage that way. And eventually, he goes down. And with that, we complete, finally, because I'll be honest, this is not exactly the most exciting game, 1.3 Monster Lair. That's it. That's the final boss. Not too bad. It did throw me for a bit of a spin, bit of a loop, when I first got to it, but I eventually figured it out, and it's not too bad. But anyway, for the final cutscene, the only one in the game, we see Leo Don, the weapon and armor of Book, who, from what I can gather, is the protagonist of the previous Wonder Boy game. They kind of alternate between being like caveman-esque and then medieval-esque. So Book was the protagonist of the second game, one before this, which I don't believe is called Wonder Boy 2, just to confuse everyone. But yeah, here we are. When the invaders previously made an attempt to conquer the world, they were unsuccessful. The power of the legendary weapons, wielded by that Book character, defeated them. Therefore, this time, the invaders stole the weapons, hoping they could use them to attack But in the hands of the evil invaders, the weapons did not exert their miraculous power. They transformed into that fire spirit that's the true final boss. Your courage has defeated the evil invaders, and once again, the world has become peaceful. And the legendary weapons have been stored away somewhere in what was once called the Monsterland. For good. Yeah. It seems that there's a whole thing about how this is the Wonderland, but sometimes it's called the Monsterland, and then they free it and it's called the Wonderland again until the next game where it's just called Monsterland again. I get the feeling that these aren't exactly narrative-rich platformers on Sega's behalf. But yeah, what can I say about this game? It's a bit of a struggle, to be honest. With Space Harrier 2, Super Thunderblade, Castlevania games, all before this, it wasn't too hard to gather my thoughts on the game because there was something to talk about, but this was just such a dull experience. There was really nothing to it. It's a platformer with basically no platforming, a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that isn't really that interesting. Sometimes it gets a few cheap shots out, but that's it. And then the bosses aren't great. Like, there's something to talk about there, but I wouldn't say any of them are that good. It's just a pretty dull adventure, in complete honesty. Game over. Bit of a strange thing to go and say, the finale of it. Usually say like a you win or whatever. Game over is a bit of a negative connotation to it, but there we are. Is there anything more? I haven't actually watched this final cutscene. I practiced the final level a few times, but hadn't actually watched that final cutscene. But with that, everyone, I would like to thank you all for watching, making your way through the playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. For now, adios and ciao. Here is what we are going to be playing next.